Mike Pachelli here. Thanks for tuning in. It's nice to spend some time with all of you. I'm going to be talking about I'll Follow the Sun as recorded by the Beatles in October of 1964. Now, prior to this recording session, the Beatles were on an international tour. They had conquered America and done their first American tour. And Hard Day's Night was a smash album and movie. So they especially for the American audiences, needed another album to come out for Christmas release. But they didn't have enough songs. So they were looking at songs they had written in the past. Now, Paul wrote I'll Follow the Sun back in 1958 when he was just, 16? He had the flu, and he just got over the flu. He smoked his first cigarette, which he used to say tasted like cotton wool, and was looking out the window of his parents' home, and he wrote I'll Follow the Sun. But there's an early recording of it, and you can tell that he wrote it as a kind of swing tune, kind of a corny swing tune. And George Harrison is playing like, I guess, Charlie Christian type licks. And, it's something like this. He went, let's see. One day you'll see I've gone, but tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. Something like Vodio-Dido, Rudy Valley-ish. But Paul worked with John, and they changed the middle eight, and no doubt John helped with this arrangement and brought it into a kind of a cooler place. It ended up, a mellow ballad. But they didn't record it earlier because it was a little too mellow. And they were known as a hard rock and kind of R&B band, and just didn't seem to fit in on the early recordings. But Paul did play it, like when the band would take a break at the Kaiserkeller, Paul would play it on piano, and he also played it like in 61 when they were at the Cavern, on breaks and stuff. But then again, in 64 they needed some more songs, so they brought it out and reworked it and made it great. To remember, back in 64, Paul kind of had a supporting role really on albums, because like on some records, John would get like 10 tracks, and Paul would only have like 3 or 4. But this shows that Paul was definitely coming into his own, and that role would be reversed. So they're in the studio on October 18th. They do 8 takes. Initially they had Ringo on drums, but it wasn't feeling right to Paul, and he was correct. So they had, Paul suggested that Ringo play just kind of beats on his knees. And it was very, very good idea and very rhythmic. Ringo did a good job. Paul overdubbed his vocals, like he double-tracked on some of the lines too. They did that. And initially John was going to play the solo on acoustic guitar. And George Harrison was kind of up in the control room, like moaning, like, I'm the lead guitar player, I should be doing this. So George Martin finally relented and let George Harrison go and try to overdub a solo. So he did that little, 8-note solo. George Harrison wasn't satisfied, nobody was, but Martin wouldn't give Harrison any more time to try to do something else. So we get that little simple solo, which is just kind of a repeat of the melody. Anyhow, they mixed it on October 21st. You could see slightly different mixes between the stereo and the mono, mainly in the vocal treatment. They did record it one other time for a BBC radio show called Top Gear, and it was released on December 15th, 64 on Beatles, what's called Beatles 65 for the American audience. So America got a hold of it for Christmas. And I think in the UK on Beatles for Sale, which would have been, in the summer of 65, I believe. It's an interesting little song. When you listen to it, it sounds extremely simple, but wait till you see John Lennon's part. It's just, once again, so intricate. It's amazing what John does on it. And George comes up with his usual lovely signature riffage. So I think that's the backstory. Well, why don't we get started? Day, you'll see I'm gone. Tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. Hey. John Lennon's part on I'll Follow the Sun is so amazingly intricate. If you just give it a casual listen, you think, well, he's just, strumming up and down, strumming. But man, there's so much more going on than that. First, let me show you the chords you'll need to get through the verse before the bridge. You'll need a C. You need an F. You need a G. You need a D. You need an E minor, but just with a B in the bass. And let's see, I think the other chords you'll need is a C7. I think that's all the chords to get you through the verse. Now, what's so great about his playing is that he'll get so many more voicings out of basic forms. So if you take the C chord, he'll play maybe just the 5th, 4th, and 3rd string, and he'll play all the strings, then he'll play maybe the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. Then on the F, same thing, 4 strings, and then 5 strings of the C, and back to 4 strings of the C. So it's almost like getting 4 different voicings out of 2 different hand placements. So on the intro, it's like, so I do that really slow. Right? But when you just hear it go by, you know. So it's a really good lesson in, like, you know, being compact and not necessarily just strumming all your strings. You know, don't, you know, feel free to play some inside stuff. And on the verse, the same thing. So the verse is G, but he'll play the low 4 strings first, like, and then accent with the top strings. 3 strings, 4 strings. So to the F, same kind of thing. And then he picks up his hand and non-harmonic notes come out. Non-harmonic notes, notes that don't fit the chord happen. So he's playing F, but he picks up his hand and he's still strumming, so you hear a B note before the C chord. Picks up his hand again before the D chord, and you hear him strum a D, G, and a B before he gets to the D. Picks up his hand again, you hear an E and a B to the C. Hear another B before the F. Picks up his hand, you hear 3 strings before the C. So if I do it closer in time, it sounds like this. See if I can do it right. It's just so loose and cool. But again, you know, the tempo's a little faster, so when you're doing it, you know, those little extra ghost notes, or I call them ghost notes, and then on the charts, I have them all in brackets, so you can, if you want to do it exactly like John. But what it shows is that, you know, you don't have to be so concerned with being super precise when you play these songs. Like, don't feel like you have to just go and change exactly, like from the F to C. You don't have to go. Because you know, John never plays like that. It's very loose. He'll pick up his hand, a note will ring out, like, you know. But that kind of gives it the little drive, the little motion, the little, you know, imperfections that make it fabulous. Okay, then the second verse, same thing with, like, on the G. On the G, he'll get the low 4 strings, then he'll get just D and G, and then play the top strings. So it's like, right? It's just the same voicing, but almost, you know, it's like 3, the same hand position, I should say, but 3 separate chord voicings, you know. All right, same kind of thing on the F. And then he's picking up the, before he gets to the C, gets 3 voicings here. And now he anticipates the D. Picks up his hand, C. Gets that E minor on the upbeat. C. All right. And before it goes in the bridge, all kind of upbeat vibes, like. Sorry. So the second verse in time would be more like this. Let's see here. I didn't do that perfectly. Let me do the ending. All right, just very loose and cool playing, and feel free, if you lift up your hand and some notes ring out, that's okay. Because what's important is that you keep driving the song along. All right, now on the bridge, there's a couple of different chords. You'll need this D minor voicing. You'll need an F minor sixth. Back to C, C7, and that's it for the bridge. You're going to get to an F major 7 later on the third verse, but it's the first time you'll hear F major 7. So on the bridge is just like this. It's like okay. Third verse, I'll just play it for you. First time you hear F major 7 is right there, at the ending of the. All right, so from right before that. So F major 7 is actually on bar, what is that, 31, 32, 33, 34, 34 of the actual chart, if you get the chart. Now, during the solo, he gets very playful with upbeats. So it's a G, and new chord. On the F, it's an F add 9. Sad chord, though. The chord he plays in the beginning of Hard Day's Night, or when they do it live. And it's all upbeats. It's like, a little one of those goes to, it's just all up, very playful, and again, slower. And now in Tomorrow, on this part, he plays a little arpeggio. He goes. Last bridge. I like how he does on the C. First a C note. I'm getting almost like 4 voicings out of the C chord. To the C7. Again. You hear a B note before the D minor. Last verse. Hear another B. You hear a B there too, before the last C. And that's an F major 7th right there at the end. Just loose, wonderful playing that drives the song. He's not particularly worried about being too precise, but all those little imperfections just make the song what it is. I say John Lennon, greatness, rhythm, guitar playing. George Harrison shows amazing restraint for a young guitar player in 1964 on I'll Follow the Sun. And for the intro, he does a really nice little finger picking thing. Now, of note is that John is feeling the first two measures as just a measure of C, 2 beats on F, and then a C again, with John's part. But Paul plays a C to a G to an F to a C. Now, the G that Paul plays on beat 3 of measure 1 could easily be thought of as C with a G bass, which is something the Beatles did all the time. Paul was playing root 5th all the time. But George interprets Paul's G as a G7, and he uses this voicing. So he's basing his riff off 3 chords, off C, off G7, off F, and back to C. And he does a really nice little thing where you play the lowest note and highest note of the C, 2 Cs, and then alternate between G and C. Then the same basic form on the G7, which would be an F and a D, and the G. Then off the F chord, an F and a C with an A, and back to the first figure. Just lovely with a mellow tone, Just so beautiful. All right, then again, amazing restraint. He plays his G chord like this, just a 3-note G chord, a 4-note F chord, a 3-note C chord, and then on the D, he's kind of adding 9 by going, and then he plays single notes, half notes, a C, B, D, G, and the figure. Right, so the verse sounds like this. Let me play the first 2 verses because they're very similar. It's Now before the bridge, he alters his finger picking and plays this. Getting into the bridge. So for the bridge, he's thinking the same changes, the same voicing John uses, the D minor, like this. Now on the F minor 6, he mimics the vocals by going. All right, and then plays this figure. Just lots of restraint. Now lightly strumming on the D minor this time. And a nice arpeggio like this. Alright, so let me play this bridge. So it's now in verse 3, a low G and a B note on the G string, 4th fret. I'm sorry, it's like a dotted quarter note. And on the F7, he plays this F7 because he gets a little few notes. So he goes first verse, first measure of verse 3. So it's to the C. It's almost like making a D add 9. I'm sorry. And then again, single notes. And the figure. Now, he's going to overdub the solo, but for the actual rhythm part of the solo, he plays the G again, like this. And this is the first time anybody plays an F7. And then, all right, and then single notes. This time he plays an A, and a little different figure up here into the bridge. It's like that. Now for the solo part, I'd have to brighten up the sound, and it's very simple, mimicking the melody. He goes from all on the B string, from fret 3 to 8, then fret from fret 4 to 10, then fret from 8 to 13, and then on the first string from fret 7 to 10. All right, that's it. And that's the solo. So we'll mellow up the sound again. We're on my second bridge, nice and restrained. He's 1, 2. And he plays a cool thing on the C chord. He's thinking a C chord voice like this. And he plays a little figure like, he plays 1. So the beginning of that bridge, 1, 2. Continue on the bridge. In charts and tabs at MikePachelli.com if you want to get exact. And he finishes off with the G chord, F7, slides into the C, and then, and the same ending. Just so sweet. All right, I put it all together for you to use as a reference. Here's all the parts, and let's check this out. 1, 2.
One day you'll look to see I've gone, for tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. Someday you'll know I was the one, but tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. And now the time has come, and so my love I must go. And though I lose a friend, in the end you will know. Oh, one day you'll find that I have gone, but tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. Yeah, tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun. And now the time has come, and so my love I must go. And though I lose a friend, in the end you will know. Oh, one day you'll find that I have gone, but tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun.
Well, there you have it, and that's how to play I'll Follow the Sun by the Beatles. And again, I suggest you just use my sound-alike as a reference, learn both parts, and play along with me, and you'll get it exactly like the recording. If you'd like to drop me a line, do so at MikePachelli.com. That's also where you can download the charts and tabs. So, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. And until next time, I'm Mike Pachelli. Take care.